I need to tell you something I've kept buried for 30 years. My name is Michael, and the man sitting across from me right now, nervously tapping his coffee cup, is David. We've been best friends since college. We were each other's best men at our weddings. Our families vacationed together every summer. Our kids grew up like cousins. And yesterday we sat them all down and told them the truth. The truth that their mothers knew all along. The truth that shaped every major decision we've made since 1994. David and I are in love. We always have been. And we built an elaborate, decades-long arrangement to hide it from everyone, including the children we raised. Let me take you back to where this started. Spring semester 1991, University of Michigan. I was a junior majoring in English, and David was the new transfer student in my Victorian literature class. I noticed him immediately, not just because he was handsome, though he was, with these warm brown eyes and a smile that made my chest tight, but because of the way he listened when our professor talked about hidden meanings in literature, about coded messages writers embedded for readers who understood. He looked like he got it, like he understood what it meant to live with secrets. We became friends quickly, study partners first, then actual friends. Late-night conversations in the library that stretched until security kicked us out. Weekend drives to nowhere, windows down, music loud, both of us pretending we weren't stealing glances at each other. I'd never felt anything like what I felt around David, and I was terrified. This was the early 90s in a conservative college town. My family was deeply religious. His parents had already made their views on homosexuality crystal clear. We both knew what loving each other would cost. It happened one night in April. We'd been drinking, not much, just enough to lower our defenses. We were in his dorm room, supposedly watching a movie, and he turned to me and said, "Michael, I need to tell you something, and I'm scared it's going to ruin everything." My heart was pounding so hard I thought he could hear it, and then he said it. "I think I'm in love with you." I kissed him. God, I kissed him like I was drowning and he was air. And for about 3 perfect hours, we let ourselves exist in this bubble where nothing else mattered. But reality crashed back in with the sunrise. We talked for hours about what this meant, about what we stood to lose. David's father had disowned his own brother for being gay. My mother had literally said she'd rather have a dead son than a gay one. We were both on track for good careers, stable futures, and we were so young, 20 years old, and facing the possibility of losing everything we'd ever known if we chose each other. So we made a choice. And I know how it sounds. I know how cowardly it seems now. But we decided we would stay in each other's lives the only way we thought we could, as best friends. We'd date women, eventually marry women, have the lives everyone expected of us, and we'd protect what we really had, protect us, by hiding it in plain sight. That summer I met Rebecca at a bookstore. She was kind, intelligent, loved literature as much as I did. I liked her. I genuinely did. And I think part of me hoped that maybe I could make myself feel for her what I felt for David. That's not how it works, though. You can't logic yourself into loving someone differently than you do. But Rebecca was patient with me, with my emotional distance that I blamed on being an introvert, on being focused on grad school. We dated for 2 years before I proposed. And the night before my wedding, David held me while I cried. David met Jennifer a year after I got married. She was a lawyer, sharp and funny, and she made him laugh. Their relationship moved quickly. I was his best man, just like he'd been mine. I stood up there watching him say vows to someone else, and I felt like I was being torn apart from the inside. But we'd made our choice. We were living the lives we thought we had to live. Here's what nobody tells you about living a lie that big. It doesn't get easier, you just get better at it. David and I saw each other constantly, family dinners every week. Our wives became close friends, which made everything easier and so much harder at the same time. We coached our kids' soccer teams together. We had standing golf dates every Saturday morning. Everyone thought it was wonderful, this deep friendship between two men. And it was wonderful. It was also torture. We stole moments when we could, a touch that lasted too long, conversations that went deeper than they should have. Once, maybe 5 years into our marriages, we almost kissed in my garage. We'd been helping each other move some furniture, and we were alone, and the pull between us was so strong. But we didn't. We never crossed that line. We'd made promises to our wives, and even though the foundation of those marriages was built on an omission, we kept those promises. We never physically cheated. But emotionally, we were each other's real partners all along. The years passed. We had kids. I have 2 sons. David has a daughter and a son. And we loved those kids with everything we had. That was never a lie. Watching them grow up, being their fathers, that was real and true and the best part of our lives. But there was always this weight, this knowledge that we were teaching them, by example, to hide who they really were, to choose safety over authenticity, and that haunted both of us. Rebecca started asking questions about 8 years into our marriage. Nothing direct at first, just comments about how much time David and I spent together. Observations about how I seemed more alive around him. I deflected, made jokes, changed the subject, but she knew, on some level she knew. We had a good partnership, Rebecca and me. We raised our boys together. We built a comfortable life. But there was always this distance between us that we both pretended not to notice. Then something happened that changed everything. 3 years ago, David's daughter Emma came out as bisexual. She was 17, terrified, shaking when she told us at one of our family dinners, and I watched David's face as he hugged her and told her he loved her no matter what. I saw the pain there, the recognition. His daughter had the courage to be honest about who she was, and he'd spent decades hiding who he was. That night, after everyone went home, David called me. He was crying. He said, "We made the wrong choice, Michael. We made the wrong choice 30 years ago, and I don't know how to live with that anymore." We started talking more seriously about telling the truth. But how do you unravel 30 years of life, built on a foundation of hiding? We had wives who deserved better than what we'd given them. We had kids who thought they knew who their fathers were. And we were in our early 50s, facing the possibility of blowing up everything we'd built. The fear was still there. But something else was there too. This exhaustion, this deep, bone-tired feeling of being done with pretending. A year ago, I finally told Rebecca everything. We were in bed, in the dark, and I just couldn't hold it in anymore. I told her about David, about how long I'd loved him, about the arrangement we'd made all those years ago. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I know. I've known for years." She wasn't angry, exactly. She was sad. Sad for the time we'd wasted, sad for the marriage we could never really have, sad for all of us trapped in this situation we'd created. She said she'd suspected from the beginning but had convinced herself she was wrong, that maybe I'd grow to love her the way she loved me. We both cried that night. David told Jennifer a few weeks later. Her reaction was different. She was angry, furious. She felt betrayed, used, and she had every right to those feelings. But after the initial shock, after some time and some very difficult conversations, she admitted she'd known something was off too. She'd just never let herself fully acknowledge what it was. Both of our wives agreed to separate quietly. No drama, no public blame. Just 2 couples who'd grown apart, at least that's what we told everyone else. They deserved so much better than what we'd given them, and we'll carry that guilt forever. But then came the hardest part. Telling our children. My sons are 26 and 23 now. David's daughter is 20 and his son is 18. They're adults, but that doesn't make it easier. How do you tell your kids that their entire childhood was built around a lie? that every family vacation, every holiday, every moment they thought they understood was actually something else entirely. We planned it carefully, asked all four of them to meet us yesterday at David's house. They knew something was up. You don't get summoned to a serious family meeting for good news. They sat there on the couch looking between me and David, probably expecting us to announce some kind of health crisis. And in a way, I guess we were. A crisis of living inauthentically for so long that we'd almost forgotten what truth felt like. David spoke first. His voice was shaking. He said, "We need to tell you something that's going to change how you see your whole lives up until now. And we're sorry. We're so deeply sorry for that." Then I took over. I told them everything about meeting in college, about falling in love, about being too afraid to choose each other, about marrying their mothers while being in love with each other the whole time, about 30 years of hiding and pretending and stealing moments. The silence that followed felt like it lasted forever. My oldest son, James, was the first to speak. He said, "So everything was a lie? Our whole family was just a cover story?" The hurt in his voice broke something in me. I tried to explain that our love for them was never a lie, that being their father was the realest thing in my life. But he wasn't ready to hear that yet. He got up and left, just walked out. David's daughter Emma was crying, but she was also nodding like pieces were finally clicking into place. She said, "I always thought there was something. The way you two looked at each other, I just told myself I was imagining it." My younger son, Marcus, just looked shell-shocked, and David's son, Tyler, he was angry. He said, "You're telling us you've been lying to everyone, including Mom, for 30 years, and we're supposed to just accept that?" We didn't expect them to accept it, not right away, maybe not ever. We told them they could feel however they needed to feel, that we'd answer any questions they had, that we understood if they needed time or space. Emma asked if their mothers knew. We explained that yes, they'd known for the past year, that we'd told them first, that we were separated and working through what comes next. Tyler asked the question I'd been dreading. "Did you ever actually love our moms?" I told him yes. Not the way I loved David, but yes, I cared deeply for Rebecca. I still do. She's the mother of my children, and we built a life together. It just wasn't the life either of us deserved. The conversation went on for hours. Tears, anger, confusion, questions we didn't have good answers for. Why didn't we just choose each other back then? Why did we bring them into this? How could we live like that for so long? Every question was valid. Every bit of anger was earned. We'd made choices that affected all of them, and they never got a say in it. Eventually, they left. We haven't heard from James or Tyler since yesterday. Marcus texted this morning asking for some time to process. Emma called David last night and talked to him for an hour. She told him she loves him and needs time to reconcile the father she knew with this new information, but that she's trying to understand. That conversation gave David the first real hope he's felt in days. So, here we are, sitting in this coffee shop the morning after our world shifted. We're together finally, actually together for the first time in 30 years. No more hiding, no more pretending, and it's terrifying. We've lost so much, hurt so many people. Our kids may never fully forgive us. Our ex-wives are dealing with their own pain and rebuilding their lives. We're in our 50s, starting over, carrying the weight of decades of choices we can't undo. But I'm holding David's hand across this table, in public, for the first time ever, and even with all the pain, all the guilt, all the uncertainty about what comes next, there's also this feeling, relief. Exhaustion mixed with relief. We're finally living in truth. It came at a terrible cost, and we'll spend the rest of our lives trying to make amends for the hurt we've caused. But we're not lying anymore. Not to our kids, not to anyone, not to ourselves. I don't know if this is a story of love or cowardice or both. I don't know if our kids will eventually understand or if we've damaged those relationships beyond repair. I don't know what our lives look like from here, but I know this. If I could go back to 1991 and talk to that 20-year-old version of myself, terrified in David's dorm room, I'd tell him to be brave. I'd tell him the cost of hiding is so much higher than the cost of truth. I'd tell him that the people who truly love you will find a way through, and the ones who don't aren't your people anyway. I'd tell him that 30 years is too long to live as half of yourself. We can't get those years back. We can't undo the impact our choices had on the people we love. But we can move forward in honesty. We can show our kids that it's never too late to start living authentically, even when it's messy and painful and complicated. We can hope that someday they'll understand that we were products of our time, shaped by fears that felt insurmountable back then, even if they seem less so now. And we can finally be who we've always been. Two men who fell in love at 20 and never stopped loving each other, no matter how hard we tried to pretend otherwise. That's our story. It's not a pretty one. It's not one I'm proud of in many ways. But it's the truth, and truth, even when it comes 30 years too late, still matters. It has to matter. Because if it doesn't, then what was any of this for? Total_char_count, 16,847.